What's up, Coach?
Hey, how are you?
Man, I can't complain if I needed to. I cannot complain. It won't come out my mouth.
I hear you. I hear you.
How's everything going?
Good. Just pushing through, navigating our new normal like everybody else in COVID.
Talk to me, man. This thing right here.
I mean, at home, bunch of Zoom calls, bunch of phone calls, mainly just missing our kids more than anything because, we hadn't seen them since March.
Wow. Wow, man. So, I mean, what's your take on this situation? Like, it's thrown the whole world off. Have y'all been able to maneuver and roll with it?
Um, well, every this is something nobody in our lifetime has experienced. So it is new for everybody. I guess our main thing is we want to be consistent in communication and making sure our kids knew that we got them whatever we can do, without physically being around each other. So I know uh, we were doing one-on-one FaceTime calls. We've done team Zoom meetings. We've had game nights or game days or whatever, just trying to keep them engaged as much as possible, while still encouraging them to, finish out school because everything was online. But really proud of them because they actually finished the semester really strong. So considering adversity, so we were proud of that.
Wow. Man, Coach, man, I remember you used to come to the Grand Prairie games to come support. So, man, I got to say, I appreciate you for even being on here, sharing
Thank
some of
you
your
for
best.
having me.
No, you good, Coach, man. Like, what we want to do is give a lot of parents don't understand. There's a lot of, no disrespect, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to the college recruiting process with like the whole college situation. They just don't know. And so what we want to do is just create this platform so parents can be like, man, I did not even know. Like didn't even know. So kind of give some details and about I know did some research. You from Mesquite, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, where I am right now, I'm at my folks' house.
Okay. So tell us where you are, kind of give some background about your playing experience.
Well, I'm associate head coach, recruiting coordinator at University of Texas at Arlington, so UTA. As far as well, I guess I'll stay there. We just finished our seventh season. We turned the program around. Fortunate enough to win a championship since we've been there. Um, so many great accomplishments already. I hate to just kind of name everything off, but very proud of what we've been able to accomplish and trying to continue to accomplish. As far as my background and playing experience, you mentioned being from Mesquite, so I actually played at Mesquite Horn when the school like first opened up. So we weren't even playing varsity yet. I don't think we played varsity until my sophomore or junior year in high school. From there, I actually went and played at UTA for a year. Coaching change happened, ended up transferring to Trinity Valley Community College in Athens. Went there because they were one of the top community colleges for women's basketball in the country, still are. Went there for a year, and from there I went to Lamar University, where I finished out, played under Larry Tidwell. If anybody's from Texas, they know that guy right there. If they have anything to do with basketball, very fortunate. But played there, tore my ACL while I was there. So I actually was there 3 years as a player and was fortunate enough that when I graduated, he hired me on staff. So I kind of started my coaching career really early, was there for 3 years and been at UTA since then. So 10 total years coaching, kind of hard to think. Doesn't seem like it's been that long.
10 toes down, 10 years. That's a decade, Coach.
Yeah.
So hold on. I got the. You probably don't know this about me, but um, you went to a school. I'm a JUCO. I'm a
All
Jew.
right. Yep.
I went to. I'm gonna say this is the best JUCO in America.
Oh, here we go.
we gonna have this. We gonna divide on this. I'm gonna tell you now. You ever heard of Tyler Junior College?
Oh, I know all about TJC. We had some battles right down the road. Not even 40 minutes fully.
Not even, man. Not even, coach. So, yeah, man. And if it's anybody, those two matchups, Tyler Junior College and the I don't know what it is about the Valley. I don't know what it is.
It's good people.
Okay. That's what we're going with. Got you. Okay. So I get it, coach. So what really started your passion? I know to reach where you are, where you have been as a player, and going through the adversity and capitalize on the adversity. What really influenced you to get into the game of basketball?
Like as a player?
Yes, and a coach.
What? Okay. So what kind of started me playing? I'm like the only girl on both sides of my family, really, in terms of my age group. So I was around nothing but boys. So grew up between playing basketball with my cousins, and when I would go to school every day, just playing on the blacktop, because there wasn't really anybody in my family that played basketball. My dad played professional football. My mom played volleyball and ran track, and I dabbled in track and volleyball as well, just being an athlete. But I really say probably the love of playing on the blacktop as a kid, and just kind of got into organized basketball like that with the YMCA. I think I started off with co-ed basketball. So it was a boys and girls team when I was in the 3rd grade. And it was just one of those things that stuck, something that I love to do. And I was fortunate enough that my parents kept me in it and invested all that time and money into me, where I was fortunate to get a scholarship. And now with it being a profession, I just feel blessed about that, because I thank my parents for the athletic ability, and it was just the hard work and practice over the years, putting in the time for the skill set. So that's probably where the love for basketball playing came from. As far as coaching, funny story, I fought it for years. When I was in high school, I had multiple coaches that told me, you're going to be a coach. I'm like, nah, I don't want to coach. I'm not going to do that. I had to set in my mind I was going to be a physical therapist, and I was dead set on that. I tore my ACL in college, in high school first. So when that happened, I went through that experience with my physical therapist, and I just enjoyed that bond that we had. So that made me really want to dive into that. And I was all in. Like, I volunteered at a PT clinic. When I finished, I shadowed a physical therapist for 2 years. It wasn't until my junior college, when I was about to go to my 4-year school again. It wasn't until then I was having a good conversation with, at the time, Michael Landers was my head coach. He's now the AD at Navarro College. But he was my head coach, and I remember him taking me to the airport, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I was like, I think I want to coach. After all this time when I was fighting it, and he told me his story, and it made me feel better about mine. He said, at least I figured it out while I was midway through school. He said he didn't decide he wanted to coach until he had already got accepted into med school after he had went through. Yeah. And so, you can only imagine how his parents felt about that. Because he actually had to go back and do another year of school to meet whatever the prereqs were to get a degree in something else. So, I was very fortunate for that talk with him, because he gave me the confidence it's okay to change my mind, because that's where my passion and my love was. And it was solidified when I went to Lamar, and that year I tore my ACL and I had to sit out, and I pretty much got to be a student coach, a player coach per se. And that was probably the best experience, sitting on the sidelines and really watching the intricacies of it, and kind of really understanding how to break the game down and be that middleman for my teammates. And I just fell in love with it then, and just kind of continued from there.
Very interesting, man. I wouldn't have want to I would have loved to be a fly on that wall when you spend all that money for. You change your mind? Oh, I'm gonna put you on a payment plan or something.
You don't want to be a doctor?
Put you on a payment plan, a repayment plan. So, Coach, man, just I was on your page, man, and I gotta say congratulations. You had 2 that graduated, correct?
Yes. Asia Evans and Marie Benson, and each one of them had their different story, but that I love seeing that more than anything. I hate that like you can't physically be there to watch them walk across the stage, because that's a feeling unlike any other.
Wow. So, and that's one of the next question I was going to ask. So, what are the greatest accomplishments? And I think you touched on it academically, and it sounds I don't know the full story, but it seems like y'all had a really close relationship. And I see, I'm imagining that a lot of kids graduate, but these 2 really resonated with you. Because I saw you, I was like, man, I'm excited just to see on her page. I feel the energy.
Yeah, I think the thing with those 2 is I had very different relationships with both of them. One of them was a 4-year senior for us, and um, the unique thing about Asia was she, through adversity of 4 years, because no matter what your college experience is, you're gonna hit some, and we live in a day and age where transferring is kind of like the thing to do, and it hasn't always been, you know, a happy story, peachy cream, all 4 years, and there are times that I know she couldn't be happy with different things, and she stuck it out, and she trusts the process, and she trusts the journey, and she believed in the vision, and now she's the all-time winningest kid to come through our program in 4 years. So like, we like to talk to our recruits and our current players about legacy and being in the record books, and she can say she's in the record books, like she's all-time winningest kid to come through UTA. Now our current freshmen and juniors are like, oh, we gonna top that, but that's what you want. Like you want that climb, like steadily. And then with Marie, we only had her for a year. Marie played at UTSA and then transferred to us, and the neat thing about her was how well she meshed in a year. Just, you would have thought she's been with our team for 4 years. And if you don't know her, you think she's quiet, you think she kind of keeps to herself, and a lot of that's because her sister Barbara, who's also on our team, is like super outgoing, all the personalities. So but with Marie, like she opened up to us a lot sooner than what you would think, especially just being somewhere for a year. You don't necessarily have to fully invest into something when you know what your timeline is. And she gave it her all. I really hated it for her, because we would have went to postseason and she didn't get the opportunity her whole college career to go to postseason. She was going to do that because we felt pretty confident we would get into the WNIT, and that was going to be a milestone for her. But even though she didn't, like she left her mark. She was our leading scorer. She was a 5-time Sun Belt Player of the Week, which we had never had anybody do that before. She still put her name on like single season scoring lists, and so I mean, she left her name in the record books as well, and she was only with us a year. But the feeling, the family feel, just you feel like you've known her for a lifetime. And that was the special part, because I know years to come she's gonna call us, text us, hey, I'm getting married, or I'm about to have a kid, or right now it's I'm ready to play overseas, and talking about the different countries, possible countries. So just to hear that excitement and be able to still have those relationships, because when you pick a school, it's more than 4 years. It's a lifetime investment. You want to go somewhere where it's truly a family atmosphere, because it's more important about the years after you're done playing basketball. You want people in your corner after you're done playing, and what's that going to be like? That's what you should look for when you're picking a university.
Okay, very true, very true. So let me ask you this, Coach. You actually just created a question. So what's your thought on the it's really new. This transfer portal is new. So what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, you're talking to somebody that did transfer, as with my own playing experience, I left the situation for another situation. I mean, honestly, I think every individual situation is different, and I think there are a number of things that play into it. Are there situations where transferring is definitely needed? You need to get closer to home. There might be a sick relative. There's definitely instances where you're like, that's a no-brainer. Like, yes, there's times where it's playing time. And it's really about what you're willing to invest, and that's what you have to be honest with yourself about when either you're picking a school or either what year you are. Like, as a freshman, you can't probably expect to come in and be the leading scorer and play all the minutes and do everything. Or are you willing to wait and adjust? And because freshman year is hard for anybody, and it don't matter the level, Division I, Division II, junior college, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a learning curve. And do you understand that? And are you willing to learn and get stronger in the weight room and all those things to be able to contribute the way you want? To me, it's all about expectations and about transparency, both with the player and the coaches. As long as there's transparency and openness and communication, I think you can get to whatever it is that you're wanting as a player. And a lot of times I hear with players, they feel like either they're being lied to maybe, or it was one way during the recruiting process and another way once I got there, or like they just aren't playing as much as they feel like they should. Social media has created an animal with it. It's some people want to be recruited again. There's so many variables that go into it. But I think it's just a part of our game now. It is what it is. We recruit transfers. We use the transfer portal. We got 3 kids last year. One of them was Marie, who I was just talking about. And so, it's just part of it.
I got you. So let me ask you this, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is, Coach, you're really big on relationship building, especially how important is that as being the one that actually does main the recruit coordinator?
I think every school has a different philosophy. I think every recruiting coordinator has a different way of doing things. I never take all the credit, especially at UTA, because we all recruit. Okay. To me, I just say my job is to organize it. Like I just coordinate, like it says, I just coordinate it and, make sure we're looking at the right kids. I keep our list together. I make sure the mail outs are going out, like that type of thing. And because I feel like we're all relationship driven, all the way to my head coach. We're all on the same accord. We all want the same thing within our program. And now we're at a point where we've been there 7 years where we know what we're looking for. We know the type of kids that we have and who can we recruit that can blend and the chemistry work and all that. Because it's not just always recruiting the best kids. Because I get all the time, both from coaches or parents or anybody, where they're like, my kid could play at the Division I level. I am not doubting that at all. They probably can, but it's all about the fit. Do they fit what we do? Do they fit our kids? Or, that type of thing. Like, because there'll be people that tell me, man, my kid can play for you. It's like, have you seen us play? Not saying that they can't, but have you ever been to a game to like actually see our style of play and like where do you see them fitting? And then when we start getting down to the nitty gritty of that, and you can't like explain it, then you just got to do your research. Both kids knowing what schools play the style of ball that they want to play, who holds academics really high as a high standard, It's just so many variables, but the research and doing the research and figuring that out for yourself, and not just trusting what anybody tells you. Like, even the recruits I talk to, I don't expect you to just believe everything I say. I want you to go do the research. I want you to go fact check me. Like, if I say we have your degree and it's one of the top whatever, I want you to go check that out. And Coach AC knows what she's talking about, because that shows the genuineness in the relationship that I'm trying to build.
Now, I think this is actually a good lead into the next question. So, as a coach, and you can in your playing days, you can touch on that as well. What's some of the pitfalls that you see from the coaching standpoint and from when you were playing?
Some pitfalls that I see. I know one thing that some coaches do is they would tell kids what they want to hear to get them there. And then that kind of speaks to what I was saying earlier, where a kid was like, it's not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what I was told. It's not genuine. It's sell like a true marketer. I'm selling you this product. And then once you get it, I'm on to the next. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's a pitfall in our game. I don't think everybody's genuine. I wish they were. But people are people. As far as a player, I wouldn't necessarily say they're pitfalls. I just think they're lessons learned. Now that I'm a coach, I look at my playing experience way different than I did when I was a player. Because you go through those times where you're not playing as much as you think you should, and everybody, and I don't care who they say they are, they reach a point where they're like, man, I don't want to do this no more. Like, I'm going home, I'm not coming back. Like, and where I think it makes a difference is how strong is that relationship with your coaches, where you can go in and talk to them about them. Do you feel comfortable talking about the things that you're struggling with? Because we're there to help. And you want coaches that you have that type of relationship with, where you can be open and honest, and you can talk through those pitfalls and things that you're experiencing to move past it. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that with anybody, then that might not be the place for you, because relationships are everything. If you don't feel comfortable talking about the difficult times as a player, how are you going to feel comfortable talking about all the adversity you're going to hit when you become an adult? Like, I know we've talked to our girls, because we're real big on our breast cancer game that we have, and we talk to them about statistics. We're like, somebody in this room is going to get breast cancer at some point, and we want to prepare you to be able to take on that adversity head on. And we want to fight with you. You got a family, this whole time, and unfortunately we've seen it with my head coach and one of her teammates, Noelle Johnson. They played together at Texas Tech, and Noelle has ovarian cancer, and our kids got the opportunity to see that Texas Tech team like come together, and you're talking 20 years later, and we did a game. Our exhibition game this year was in her honor, because she coaches at Midwestern State, or she did. All their team came back. Coach Sharp came back from Texas Tech. Like, just to see that camaraderie, and all of them, all these years later, that I got your back when something's wrong. The coaches are there. Just that's what you're wanting. And so when things are difficult while you play, I was fortunate enough I could talk to my coaches. I still talk to my coaches now. I'll pick up the phone and call Coach Tidwell in a quick second. Coach Landers, when he was still coaching at Navarro on the men's side, I would stop by and see practice, because relationships. I just think this business, that's just what it's about. It's all about relationships.
It is. And we're actually, if you really look at it, this COVID situation lets you know how relational we are. We are here, and it has actually spiked, and we are here trying to get close to people.
Yeah.
So
it's a natural human instinct. Like, you need that social.
So here's the thing, Coach, man. I want to ask this, and you kind of touched on it. What's some of the things that you look for? Not a schematic thing as far as the program, but what's some of the things like, that's a Lady Maverick right there. Oh, yep, that, I need to go and put her on my list.
Let's see. That's a good question. There's so many things that kind of go into that. We're big on character. We talk about that in the recruiting process. We talk about that with our kids. And the best way that I can describe that is we want to be the best in everything we do. If it's in the classroom, if it's community service, if it's playing jacks, like you want to be the best. Right. And you're always striving for that. And those are things that we talk to our kids about. So naturally, when I'm talking to recruits, I'm trying to get their mindset. Let me see what your mindset is like. Be it talking about goals, what kind of student are you? Like, I was a 3.89 GPA student when I graduated college. So, academics, it says student athlete. Student comes first. So just seeing where you're driven. I know the other thing that kind of makes that kind of difficult to answer, like, is not a cookie cutter thing. It's not like you have to have all these boxes checked type thing to be a Lady Math. We really talk about we're a puzzle and finding the right puzzle pieces. So I know we're not necessarily talking schematics in terms of like positions or anything like that, but that could determine why we would sign a point guard in this class, and you got another kid that's just like her in the next class. I'm like, man, why are you not recruiting such and such? Because she's just like what's her name that's on your roster. Well, why would I want to recruit somebody on top of the kid that we put so much effort and time in and everything, and have somebody right behind her already that's just like her? Like you want different puzzle pieces. You want different skill sets. You want different personalities. You don't want everybody being Chiefs. You need some Indians. You need people who are willing to follow. You just need a mixture of things. And I just think it's like a perfect kind of gumbo recipe. Like, it just perfects itself every year. And, it's one of those things you just know when you feel it, when you see it, when you talk to them on the phone, when they get around our kids, like we really see it then, like how they're interacting. And I know we trust our kids enough where they come back and talk to us like, hey, such and such was great. She did the X, Y, and Z, because they're invested in the program. We say all the time that our players are our biggest recruiters. Like nobody can sell the program like somebody that's in it. And, half the time, most of the time, we don't even know that, like, we had an instance with a kid that signed with us, and she had a prior relationship with a couple of kids on our team because her older sister played with some of them. And so she got her number from her sister, and she called them up and asked them a bunch of questions. And then after she signed, she was like, yeah, I talked to such and such and such and such, and we didn't even know. But, you trust your kids at this point. They're selling our program better than we are. And so, and they trust their peers better than, because it goes back to how genuine it is. Like, we seem great, all that, but they haven't been around us on a day-to-day basis to know that for sure. And then they talk to our kids without any type of prompt or like setting anything up. It's like just hitting them up and like, hey, so tell me about Coach for real. Like, what's it really like when I get there? That type of thing. And luckily for us, like the way we say we are. And our kids can just speak to that, and that's something we don't have to train them to do. It's just genuine, and they can just say their experience, and hopefully that makes somebody want to join the team.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but it sounds like you're building, since you got there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like changing the culture, and how you're doing it is organic.
Yes.
Gotcha. I got you.
It's so much bigger than the game we play. It's like we even talk about our first year, we only won 4 games. Like that's it. Like it was a struggle for all of us. But the culture change we even had in that year was big. When we got there, they had a 2.1 GPA as a team. And so, yes. And so with those same kids and just holding them accountable and, investing and just holding their feet to the fire, those same kids got a 3-1 in the very next year. And that to me let us know that we're headed in the right direction. The wins will come. We would get, the talent in here. We'll play the system and, we'll do all the schemes to win games, but we want to help build young women. And, when they leave UTA, they should think they can accomplish and do anything that they want to do in life.
Coach, one of the things, and I think we can relate to this. Some years ago, I was doing some research on Urban Meyer, and when he got out of football, I believe at Florida, right before he got into Ohio State, he was like, football is easy. Well, actually, I believe he did win the national championship at Ohio State, and right before that year, he actually started to incorporate men type of meetings with him. And he made it, because if you only make it about sports, how far can you get with it? Mm-hmm. Make it about building people. And that's what he did. He actually had them to read a certain book, and all of them had to read it, and it built them up as men, and it helped them out a lot. So I get what you're saying on that. That's very important, because let's just say you don't have a successful season based on the wins and losses. That's perfectly okay, but there's a bigger picture in play. Just keep that same thing, as you said, that process. Question.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've had your experience. Talk to me about how you deal with parents. Helicopter, very passionate parents. How does that play into a recruiting process? Or you go to a game, you hear a parent doing more coaching than the coach?
Well, just being real. I think there's a difference in being a concerned parent, or your baby's going to college. Like there's a difference in wanting to make sure that's a good process, and being then necessarily trying to be their coach and things like that. So the things I personally pay attention to are how does that player react? Are they listening to their parent more than they listen to their own coach? Are they turning in the stands and having a conversation with their parents while they, clearly they're disagreeing with what their head coach is saying? I've had instances where I've been around parents cussing and acting a fool. I was at a game where a fight broke out, and it was in the stands, and the kids weren't even involved. And so, unfortunately, that can hurt kids in the recruiting process, because naturally, as a coach, when I'm fortunate enough to be at the college level and I get to who comes to play for me, or our program, why would I want to create a difficult situation if I don't have to? And some of that can have more to do with distance, like, because just because your parent acts a certain way doesn't mean that the player does. But if the kid is, let's say, example, if we recruit who stays hours away, well, how often is that parent really going to try to be overbearing within the program, as opposed to if it's just Dallas-Fort Worth down the street, oh, mom and dad might be in this practice every day. So those are all things that can factor in. I would say personally at UTA, we haven't had those issues. We've been fortunate. We haven't had a situation where a parent feels a certain type of way, and I think that goes back to the recruiting process and just being genuine. For those reasons, our practices are open. Whenever, like, there's times where kids want to play, and they want to play more. And, we're like, come watch practice, like whatever. And a lot of times that solidifies, like, okay, they're not doing the things that they're telling me they're doing, or that I think they're doing, or things like that. Another thing is, we tell them in the recruiting process, when they get to college, they're an adult. And we're not going to call mom and dad for every little instance something goes wrong, because you're going to stumble. We all did. I'm not going to call mom because you were late to class. I'm not calling dad because you missed a workout. Like, we're not doing that. So the only time we're going to get parents involved is if it could potentially affect their pocketbook. So if I can't reach you and it's becoming an issue, well, if there's a chance that you are in a position where you might be losing a scholarship because you can't follow rules, follow instruction, it's always something. Well, now we have to get mom and dad involved. But like I said, we haven't had to have those type of issues, with parents. Now, we've all had the freshmen, when their parents get there, they want to call them every day. And they'll reach out to me. I haven't heard from such and such. We didn't talk today. And then they're used to talking every day. But that's normal, to be quite frank. Like, it really is, especially if it's like the first time the kid's going to college, as opposed to when you're dealing with a parent that's had multiple kids either, play sports and go off to school. Most of the time, like, they're a breeze because they've already been through the process. But it's just awesome, common sense. And a lot of our kids, we're teaching them to be able to communicate. So instead of communicating through your parents, your emotions and how you're feeling in terms of wanting to come and talk to us, we want you to feel comfortable to do that. Speaking back to the relationship part, like, we want you to know that you can come talk to us about anything, and you don't have to go to your parents for them to be the middleman to then come and talk to us. Now, it's natural, like I said, to call them, man, workouts, we're tough today and I'm sore and there's this, especially that freshman year, like that's normal. But we've been fortunate enough to have parents to come back and say, just keep fighting through and you got it. And like, just keep encouraging them, as opposed to being in their ear, like, you need to leave, transfer, X, Y, and Z. And we've all had transfers. It's just, there've been different reasons. It's like, we've just been fortunate. That's all I can say.
That's important, Coach. So, I mean, I get it. I think what occurs a lot of is that it goes back to relationships and having an understanding. So, and I'm sure parents, so have y'all ever experienced where it's like you have to sit down with a parent and be like, you're doing too much and this is costing your child?
No, no, because by the time they get to us, we've already kind of established that. Now what we have done is we've let if we're recruiting a kid and, like, say the coach, like their high school coach or summer coach, is like, man, such and such really likes you guys. I know, what's the hold back there, or and I'll tell the coach, man, just to be honest with you, every time I come to the game, mom and dad is XYZ. Like, if you can talk to them about that and how that appears and how that looks and how it's hurting their child's recruiting, because I know we're not the only ones that probably want to recruit their daughter. It's a family. Like, we don't just sign that kid. We sign their family to join our family. At the end of the day, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, grannies, all we sign. Your family becomes a part of our family. So it's important that all that is on one accord. Everybody's on the same page and want the same thing, which is the success of her. In the classroom, on the court, helping her accomplish her dreams. And we're all one big village helping her get there.
Got you. So, Coach, you talked about sometimes parents reach out throughout a school day, but I ain't heard from I ain't heard from. So, what's a typical day from a coach's perspective as well as a player's perspective?
In college. So as a player, a lot of it depends on the time of the year that it is. So if it's before basketball season officially gets started up, um, you're still training somewhat, but it's kind of limited. So like a typical day during that time is our kids will probably have class between like 8 and 12. So they're going to class. Um, and then we like to practice typically from like we have like the 12 to 3 o'clock block in the day. So go to class, come to practice. Then after that, it's depending on the day. Like you'll have study hall that you have to do no matter where you go, no matter what level, you're gonna have study hall of some sort. So our kids have study hall. You'll have community service events that you do depending on the day. There might be meetings, tutoring, is just different things that you might have. The other thing I didn't mention is you'll lift. I know before basketball season starts, we tend to lift like 4 times a week. We do more small groups, and those groups are dependent on our kids' class schedules. So, I said you might have class between 8 and 12. What if you have like an hour break in there, your weightlifting group might be at that time. So it's kind of more convenient for our players. And we've been able to do that for them, and that's worked out for us. Now, once we get into season, time kind of kicks up in terms of how often we can have them. So before season starts, we only get 2 hours of basketball instruction a week. So that can be 30-minute skill sessions. It can be, we may not practice every day. It might be like, 2 practices a week. It just depends on how we want to break it up. But once season starts, we can practice for 4 hours a day if we need to. We don't typically go that long. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, when you're doing a lot of teaching, they're a little longer. But as we get into conference and playing games, like that really cuts down to 2.5 hours, just depending on how experienced, how many veterans you have. There's so many factors. But your schedule is still about the same. Go to class, you might have weightlifting in there, but now your practice is longer. And then after practice, same thing, whatever other duties you might have that you want to get done. We're fortunate enough that we have a study hall center, and they keep track of our kids' hours based on their swipe with their card. So it's really on them and their free time when they want to get that done. They just know how many hours a week they have to get. So it might be 8 hours. It might only be 4. All that's depicted on how good your grades are. What's your GPA looking at? 3.5 and higher for us, you don't even have study hall. But what we found is those kids still go anyway, because they like being in the study hall where there's no distractions, as opposed to they go back to their apartment where you got the TV, somebody can call, your teammates coming, knocking on the door. Like there's so many things that can interrupt you. So I don't know if that answered your question fully.
It did, because a lot of parents don't understand, and sometimes they take offense. Like, I called her and she didn't call. Well, this is the reason why.
It's full. It's a full-time job. You're typically 8 in the morning to some days 8, 9 o'clock at night. You have something to do. It's not like, and to be honest, and even when I was a player, like you're taking naps in between when you aren't doing something, like you are napping. You're asleep. So college athletics really keeps you busy, no matter what sport you're playing. It's definitely a full-time job, and those kids put in a lot of work to be good at their craft.
Coach, man, final question. So, how do you balance work and life?
Work-life balance, huh?
Is there?
Huh?
Is there a such thing?
Yes, there is. A lot of that is depicted on, for me, like being an assistant, like who my head coach is. I am fortunate enough. Our head coach is one of the biggest family people that you would ever meet. We've been together a while, so she has her own kids. So when we finished practice and whatever that day, like she was hopping in the car going to, try to be mom. And so watching her have the opportunity to go to her daughter's basketball games, go to her son's football games, go and really be there. And now her daughter is in college, and we'll rearrange practice so she can, drive 3 hours, watch a game, drive 3 hours back. Like it, so just watching her be that super mom per se. She's just real big on family anyway. And she's like that with us as coaches and even our players. There are things in life that come up that are emergency situations, and it's not always bad things, where a kid needs to go home, or kid, we have one of our players' brother, he plays for the Sixers, and we were going to play a game in North Texas, and originally she thought that his game was going to be in OKC that next day. And she was like, do you mind if my mom come gets me straight from the game, and I'll go there? And she was like going to miss a practice, but it was okay. Like, when else do you get to do that? And so, we preach family. So why preach family if you're not actually operating as one, and allowing both your coaches and your players to have that type of atmosphere with their own families? I'm fortunate that I'm from here and my family lives here. So I get to see my parents all the time. And both my brothers live here. I get to see them, and my our other assistant, he's married and he has 3 kids. And as a staff, we all enjoy each other enough. We'll go to their kids' games. We'll go hang out at each other's house. And, this COVID has really affected us as a staff, because, we enjoy each other enough that when we don't have to be together, we still are. So in terms of work-life balance, it's who you work for. And how much time they allow for that. Now, at the same time, you have to do things on your own to kind of help. So one thing that I do that I actually got from somebody else is I have a commute to work. And on that commute, it's about 30 minutes. I make sure that I get in a work-related phone call and a personal-related phone call every day. So work-related could be calling a high school coach, calling an AU coach, calling a recruit, like just, because I'm driving anyway. And then a personal phone call, I make sure I call family members, cousins, friends, because it's natural, and you can talk to any basketball coach, for us to get wrapped up in our world. And you look up and you hadn't talked to your cousin in a year and you don't realize it. So I know that forces me to, keep those relationships, because they've been around me long enough. They try not to bother me, they say, and call me a lot. So I have to make a point to continue to fuel those relationships that I have, friendships, other coaches in the business. Like I just try to call them and just check on them, because whether they're winning, whether they're losing, sometimes just to have, just to talk to somebody is the pickup that you need. So yeah, I'm not married yet. I don't have kids, so it's not like I can really speak to that part of the family aspect. But I have great examples on my staff, and they let me know that it is very possible to have a family and be a parent that's super invested and involved and still work in this crazy business that we work in.
It is possible, Coach. Me being in education, running a program, and coaching, it's possible. One thing they can tell you is you got a time block.
Mhm.
Prioritize, time block, and be selective with it. And I think you'll be really successful whenever, you know, everything happens for you. And it sounds like, Coach, to be honest with you, it really sounds, to be open with you, it sounds like you've been blessed.
I have. I have.
On your side.
Hey, God has led the way, and I'm just trying to live in my purpose.
Yeah. Coach, man, you are. You are. And I just say, because I can just tell you really love what you do. Like, this ain't even a job for you, honestly. This is a ministry probably for you.
Yes.
There it is.
I mean, honestly, when I first started coaching, I wasn't making anything. And I had an opportunity to go, to do something else that would have paid me a lot more. But I'm very passionate about it. The relationships and stuff that I'm blessed more by my players. Having an opportunity to know them and them including me in their lives, and just watching them mature. I'll tell you the biggest moment for me, or kind of proudest moment I had as a coach, was our staff. We're open about our faith. We just live it. Like you don't feel like you have to talk about it all the time, and there's a thin line between forcing that, and we definitely don't do that. We just live it. And one of our players came in, wasn't a believer, and it was kind of like every year, like it started off as just questions, like, hey coach, tell me what you think about this, like that type thing. And then the next year, do you mind if I go to church with you, like and then junior year goes on a mission trip with one of our other players. And then senior year gets baptized, gives her life to God. And watching that, like, that was the most rewarding thing that has happened in my coaching career. Like it brought tears to my eyes. Because that's big than anything else.
Come on, Coach. You about to have me over here doing Hey, when it comes to that, man, I mean, from having ACL, and I gotta go with having ACL surgery, not paying attention, having ACL surgery, still coming back, having the. I mean, it's not you. It's not me. I'm just appreciative. So, man, Coach, I appreciate it. We're gonna be in contact.
Oh yeah,
so, definitely. Yeah. So, man, I might have should have talked about God a little bit earlier, so we can have a little testimony.
Sorry, we can always talk again.
Man, Coach, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Yeah, have a good one.